Chile and Bolivia agreed on Tuesday to allow several hundred stranded Bolivians who had camped outside their country's consulate in the Chilean capital to return home after undergoing a 14-day quarantine. In the midst of the health crisis in the United States, food insecurity has become a major concern for large sectors of the population. A long-running state of emergency in Egypt has been extended for another 3 months as the country combats the highest number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, I'm Katrina Goss. Chile and Bolivia agreed on Tuesday to allow several hundred stranded Bolivians who had camped outside their country's consulate in the Chilean capital to return home after undergoing a 14-day quarantine. According to a statement from the Chilean Foreign Ministry, the foreign ministers of both countries agreed the migrants should be transported to Iquique, a coastal desert city in northern Chile nearer to Bolivia, and then allowed to return home following isolation. The group of Bolivians say they have not received any economic assistance after having lost their jobs due to the coronavirus lockdown. And Bolivia has now officially reported over 1,000 COVID-19 cases, but local sources have pointed to a lack of testing to reveal the real numbers. According to official data, 1,014 COVID-19 cases have been confirmed, including 53 deaths. However, local sources estimate that the de facto government is carrying out just 100 tests a day, and there is no evidence of purchases of medical supplies to address the growing health crisis in the country. Bolivia's coronavirus lockdown is scheduled to end on April 30th. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro informed this Tuesday that no new COVID-19 cases had been detected and stressed that the lockdown imposed as soon as the first cases were identified had helped stop the spread of the virus.
Today, April 28, Tuesday, April 28, we have to report that we have 0 cases. 0 cases. This means that Venezuela still has 329 cases. Vice President Rodriguez Jorge, can you show the first sheet? 329 cases, 142 recovered patients, for 43.2% recovery rate, 89 patients in public hospitals, 69 in comprehensive diagnostic centers, 24 in private clinics, and unfortunately 10 compatriots who died.
Brazil could become the next big novel coronavirus epidemic hotspot in the Americas amid President Jair Bolsonaro's insistence that it is just a little flu. The Brazilian president has called for the lifting of all lockdown measures imposed by state governors to slow the spread of the virus and persistently dismissed the risks posed. Brazil has reported over 4,500 COVID-19 deaths and over 68,000 confirmed cases. On Monday, over 4,000 nurses were taken off the job as they were suspected of having been infected with the coronavirus. As the COVID-19 pandemic and consequent lockdown continue in Peru, migrant workers who had found work in the capital, Lima, have begun the journey back home to their home regions. On April 26, Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra called for regional governments to transfer those stranded in the city back home. The metropolitan municipality of Lima has set up a camp to accommodate and feed the migrant workers who are still stuck in the capital and no longer able to meet the costs of food and rent due to the lockdown. Vizcarra noted that many Venezuelan migrants are demanding to return to their home country due to the critical situation they are currently experiencing in Peru. Meanwhile, migrants from Colombia and Chile have gathered at their embassies in Lima to demand their repatriation. Peru continues to be the second worst hit country in Latin America, with more than 28,000 positive cases and a death toll of almost 800. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases and fatalities continues to rise in the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic continues to be the worst hit nation in the region, with more than 6,000 confirmed cases and almost 300 deaths. It is followed by Cuba with more than 1,400 positive cases and 58 fatalities. Meanwhile, Jamaica has reported a total of 364 cases and 7 deaths. They are followed by Martinique, Guadeloupe and Trinidad and Tobago as the countries with the highest number of cases reported in the region. The Puerto Rican Ministry of Health has announced a total of 1,400 positive COVID-19 cases and a death toll of 86. The figures continue to rise in this Caribbean island of 3.2 million inhabitants, while the population is questioning the official statistics due to reports of deaths not included in the numbers, as well as asymptomatic cases. Despite the fact that older adults are usually the most vulnerable sector, in Puerto Rico the highest number of cases are found among people aged 50 to 59, representing 285 cases, followed by those aged 40 to 49 with 258. The Ministry of Health has not offered details on the total number of tests carried out in the country, nor how many suspected cases are awaiting results. More stories coming up after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson accused US politicians of telling barefaced lies on Tuesday after President Donald Trump suggested he may seek damages from China over the coronavirus pandemic.
American politicians have repeatedly ignored the truth and have been telling barefaced lies. They have only one objective: shirk their responsibility for their own poor epidemic prevention and control measures, and divert public attention. But the facts speak louder than words, and justice naturally inherits a man's heart. Their plot can never succeed.
The United States reached a grim milestone of 1 million confirmed coronavirus cases on Tuesday, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. In the midst of the health crisis, food insecurity has become a major concern in the US, particularly in New York. More in the following report.
With galloping unemployment in New York, the number of people relying on food banks is skyrocketing with every passing day. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, over 12 million New Yorkers struggled to put food on the table. Now the situation is even worse. Noah Abdallah is a case in point. It's the first time ever she has had to ask for free food. She and her husband used to work as Uber drivers.
We lost our jobs. All drivers are home now, with no jobs, with no income. So we all need help to overcome this crisis.
This is a common story in the United States' most populated city. The lines of people seeking free meal in New York continue to grow as the COVID-19 outbreak has brought to light the lack of job security in the so-called first world economy. Companies have ordered massive layoffs under the pretext of the health crisis, thus exacerbating the already existing challenge posed by food insecurity in the United States. Statewide, New York schools now offer 3 takeout meals a day, Monday through Friday, in order to help struggling families, with the offer including not only school children's parents, but also anyone who might need it.
According to figures from Spain's National Statistics Institute released on Tuesday, over 3.3 million people were unemployed at the end of March. Spain's unemployment rate rose to 14.4% in the first quarter of the year, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The data released on Tuesday is only partial, as the country went into lockdown only 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, and most of the household survey on which the rate is based had already been carried out, according to the Statistics Institute. Data from the Social Security Register revealed that almost 900,000 jobs were lost in March alone. Spain has had the majority of the population on lockdown since March 14th and has the world's 3rd highest COVID-19 death toll after the United States and Italy. And Spanish health authorities reported 301 new COVID-19 fatalities over the last 24 hours, a lower figure than the previous day, and bringing the death toll to over 23,800.
Every region except for one have reported more people discharged or healed than new cases. Only one has still notified more new cases than people discharged. Obviously, we see that the general situation is more favorable than what the numbers can make the situation out to be.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has extended the nationwide paid leave and partial lockdown until May 11th as daily COVID-19 cases surge. According to the president, Russians must continue to self-isolate as the country braces itself for the peak of the epidemic. In a national address, Putin explained that the gradual lifting of lockdown measures would begin on May 12th, and he gave the government a week to come up with recommendations on how to make this work. The president also ordered ministers to prepare a package of urgent measures to support the economy and citizens amid the crisis. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Russia now surpasses 93,000, while the death toll has reached 867. Austria's health minister announced on Tuesday that the country will ease its lockdown measures on May 1st, making it among the first European countries to do so. Austria has been under lockdown for about 7 weeks. As of Friday, people will still need to maintain a 1 metre distance from each other and wear a face mask in public. In a further move, restaurants will reopen on May 15th and up to 4 adults will be allowed to sit at the same table, while the 1 metre distance rule will still apply. According to the Austrian Ministry of Health, current infection rates are well below 1%, making a gradual reopening of the economy possible. Austria has confirmed over 15,000 COVID-19 cases and 569 fatalities.
Wir können diese Ausgangsbeschränkungen.
We can let these lockdown measures run out. We don't have to continue them from today's point of view and judging by today's figures. Instead, we change to a decidedly more open regulation. And this arrangement means that from May 1st to the end of June, we are going to be in a phase in which citizens can go out.
Bis Ende Juni in einer Phase sein werden, wo Bürgerinnen und Bürger
People across the United Kingdom served a minute's silence this Tuesday for key workers who have died as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. National Health Service staff across the country paused their activities to join the minute's silence. Since the start of the outbreak in the UK, more than 100 key workers have been killed by COVID-19, including medical staff and other essential workers such as transport employees. The British government has been heavily criticised for not acting fast enough to implement measures to stop the spread of the virus and for failing to provide key workers with personal protective equipment. The UK has seen more than 161,000 confirmed cases and over 21,600 COVID-19 deaths. And we're taking one last break now, but stay with us for more on the situation in Africa. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Nigerian authorities announced that they will start easing a coronavirus lockdown covering the country's largest city, Lagos, and its capital, Abuja, from May 4th. The Nigerian president announced an immediate 2-week lockdown in northern Nigeria's largest city, Kano, after officials said they were probing a spate of mysterious deaths. The government faces a difficult balancing act on trying to curb the spread of the virus, while also containing growing desperation among the vast numbers of the population who live hand to mouth in Africa's most populous country. With a population of 200 million, Nigeria has reported over 1,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases, including 40 deaths, but testing has been limited, and the head of the Disease Control Agency has put out an appeal for testing kits.
The minister says Nigeria will continue to...
Kenya is struggling with the price of medical oxygen as the country tackles the spread of the novel coronavirus, and prices are currently 5 times that in Europe or the United States. The country has reported 374 COVID-19 cases and 14 fatalities.
The 2 main factors affecting the availability of oxygen in Kenya are, one, the lack of technical capacity on the side of government to produce and distribute oxygen. And as a result, oxygen is very expensive and rarely available where it's needed the most. Number 2 is a policy problem. It's not until 2017 that oxygen was included in the WHO's list of essential medicines for treatment of pneumonia in children under 5. That policy change has opened doors for more resources going towards oxygen.
Botswana's President, Mokgweetsi Masisi, announced on Tuesday a one-week extension of the nationwide lockdown that was due to end on April 30th. The President explained that the extension was agreed following advice from health experts after an increase in local COVID-19 transmissions was reported. The lockdown will now end on May 7th, followed by 2 weeks of gradual easing of the restrictions. During the next 2 weeks, the government will decide on a strategy to ease the restrictions and guidelines to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. Botswana has confirmed 22 COVID-19 cases and 1 death.
The containment of this pandemic.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Tuesday extended a long-running state of emergency for another 3 months, citing health as well as security concerns. Egypt has been under a state of emergency since April 2017, when attacks on 2 churches killed at least 44 and injured 100. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attacks. This is the 12th time the state of emergency has been extended since then, and the latest extension comes as the country battles to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus. The Health Ministry has so far reported over 5,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 300 fatalities, while more than 1,000 patients have recovered from the virus. Nearly a month after authorities in Bangladesh ordered garment factories to shut to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, the industry is reopening despite the continued risks. Rubana Huk, president of the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association, said she was under pressure to reopen factories as the pandemic has cost the industry more than $3 billion and reported that about 600 factories will be reopened this week. Bangladesh has the world's second largest garment industry after China, bringing in $35 million per year in exports, mainly to the United States and Europe, and employing some 4 million workers. The country, with a population of 160 million, has confirmed more than 6,000 coronavirus cases and a death toll of over 100.
I am a welfare officer and my duty is to ensure the guidelines for the workers' health safety. On this regard, me and my medical team, along with representatives of HR compliance, are making hourly observations. Besides that, we have arranged for random temperature check-up by doctors.
The sacred month of Ramadan, the 9th month in the Islamic calendar, started at the end of last week. However, this year Muslims across the world are observing the traditions under lockdowns and restrictions due to the coronavirus pandemic.
The new crescent moon marks the official first day of Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and the most sacred in Islamic culture. According to tradition, Ramadan is the month in which Allah contacted the Prophet Muhammad to give him the verses of the Holy Book, or Quran. Observed by Muslims worldwide, Ramadan is a time for fasting, prayer, reflection and community. But this year, many of the traditional activities that mark the sacred month are restricted due to the coronavirus pandemic. This year, Ramadan will take place differently. Sacred sites such as the Great Mosque of Mecca in Saudi Arabia and the Dome of the Rock Shrine in Jerusalem have been closed, while measures are being taken in mosques that remain open to avoid crowds. Even so, from dawn to dusk every day until late May, the world's more than 1.6 billion Muslims will dedicate their fasting to Prophet Muhammad and pray to find clarity in the scriptures of the Quran amid the current apocalyptic events. Tradition dictates that this month is a time to purify the body, strengthen one's will by understanding what people deprived of food suffer, and dedicate more time to the family. Although its confinement and far from its usual community character, this year Ramadan will also be a celebration of faith and hope.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.
Hola, ¿qué tal?